Coming up on iPads in the classroom, we're rocking geology. Hi, I'm Guy Trainin, and this is iPads in the Classroom from TechEdge, and today we're rocking geology, and we're going to start with an app that talks about the rock cycle. And what this app does is really walk students through the rock cycle with a combination of poems that describe the situation, and then a graphic representation, a media that helps understand what it looks like. So you see, it's a simple poem that was written, in this case, describing how the rock cycle starts as magma. And then if you play around with an iPad, in this case, you got to shake it quite a bit, so I will try and do that. You get the media to come up and describe and help understand what this phase is. And you can go to the next phase, and this is when the magma comes out. And again, we can shake it, and it's really hard when you're on a stand. But you can see that there's the rock and there's a temperature, and you can actually shift the temperature and see what happens to the rock as it is very hot at 2000 degrees Celsius. It is magma, and as it cools down, it takes shape. And you can look at different rocks and the way they look. So it is called the rock cycle. The second one I want to talk about is called Mineral Hunt. In Mineral Hunt, it's basically a game where students can pick up specific rocks. So if you look at this, there's a basin with some rocks, and you click on them. Every time you click on them, you learn a little bit about them. What is their name? What are they made out of? And some fact about them. And of course, very importantly, what they look like up close. And you continue to the next item, and each time you click, you learn something about that specific rock. When you're done looking through all of the rocks and picking all of the rocks, it's time for a quiz to see how much you've learned. And what you do is you really are looking inside the box for different rocks. So this is very similar to the act that we had before. Let's pick this one. It shows it up close, and then it asks you what it is. So it's really about identifying. In this case, it's a garnet, and you are correct, and you got 2 points. And you can pick another. Let's pick this one. Now let's say I don't know what it is. I can try again. And if you feel like you're stuck, you can always look around and go back to the main board that helps you identify all of them. So this is from Creative Classroom. It's called Mineral Hunt. The next app I want to talk about is an app I've talked about before. And what I am trying to show you is that you can take this app that is a very simple app and use it to teach something like rocks. And this app is called Studyblue. And in Studyblue, what you do, or what your students can do, is create flashcards that help practice, in this case, rocks. So we created a rocks box of cards, and here is one that we've created before. And what you see is you see the actual rock, and it can be with a description or without. Here's another card we created, that is basalt, just an identification one. And you can take the pictures, you can add pictures and sound, and when you're done creating the cards, and again, kids can create the cards, it doesn't have to be you, and when you're done, you can actually do a practice. So here is the practice. You see the picture, you guess, this is dacite, and I got it correctly, so I can mark that I got it right. This one I got wrong, let's say. This is just an audio one that we created. And let's say we got this one right. This is basalt. So Yes, I got it right. What you get after you finish the deck is you get a score of how well you did in trying to identify these. And you can do study again of the whole bunch, or you can study only the ones you got wrong. It's a very elegant app, and you can do it with many things. In this case, we chose to do it with rocks. This is called Studyblue. The next app I want to focus on is called Earth Viewer. And in Earth Viewer, we're moving away from just discussing rocks to discussing the way the Earth changed over time. So what we can do in this app, the way it was designed, is to follow the geological eras and see what the Earth looked like and what the atmosphere was like at different time points. So right now we're at current day, the world, right? You can look at the United States, but you can rotate this and make sure that you have a good view. Now you can use this scale here on the side to really show how the Earth was different at different time points. And this is animated, so let's just play it. You can see how the continents move about and separate until we are in our current phase, and now it's starting from a very early Earth and moving forward from there. So you can see how the continents move. You can add layers to this app, so let's bring it just to the Jurassic, which is at least vaguely familiar. And one of the things I love about this is it has the locations of major cities and major borderlines, so you can actually focus on where Los Angeles was, for example, in this screen, at different times in history. Obviously, Los Angeles wasn't physically there, but the geographical location and how it moves about, which is a good way to illustrate that. You can also add different things, so you can add impact events, for example, meteor hits, so you can see where they are in the world, and if you click on them, it'll give you some information about them. You can also add biological events and mass extinctions, for example, the dinosaurs. And so we can have lots of information on this map. Another thing that you can do to add is actually charts, and you can have charts describing temperature over time, oxygen, carbon dioxide, etc. You can actually have two graphs available, but this is one of the most illustrative graphs, I think, is the graph showing temperature over time. And you can again go back in history and see that the Earth was much hotter in its early eras, where magma was still pouring all around, and then cooling off in a fairly short period, and then the ice ages and all of that. You can follow all of that rather well using the scale on the back. This is called Earth Viewer. The last two apps I want to talk about are about earthquakes. And the first one is from Popular Mechanics, and it's called Quake Tracker. And this is an app that focuses on earthquakes in the United States. And these are the latest seismic activity in the United States. And one thing to be a little bit careful about this is that the bars that are shown all around are actually bars showing how much population is in that area. So it's not the magnitude of the earthquake. What you can see is once it gets to a time where there's an earthquake, you can see the location, the magnitude, how deep it is, and how wide it goes. So you can see that. You can zoom in on them and see it up close. Let's take it back, and you can see how wide the impact is. So the fact that it reaches beyond just one city. The second thing you can see as you look at them is you can actually turn the map sideways and see how deep the earthquakes reach. So that's another way to gain some input into the impact of earthquakes and where do they matter the most. You can see, for example, that the wider span is actually somewhere underground, and it goes like a cone up into the ground. And you can look also at the major earthquakes in US history in the last 130 or 150 years. So this is Quake Tracker from Popular Mechanics, and it's a great way to explore earthquakes. Another one that does something very similar is called Quake Feed. And Quake Feed, it allows you to explore earthquakes all around the world. So you can look at a specific region and you can see how the earthquakes actually follow those fault lines that are drawn on the map. So it allows you to explain what the fault lines do. And if you focus in on a specific area, it will locate them and it'll help you understand when they happened. And there's also a quake list that can lead you to the latest activity. This seems to be collecting the last week or so. So first of all, what's impressive is how many significant recordings of seismic activity are around the world, and then where they happen. So if you click on them, it'll take you to that, and then it'll show you that cluster of activity that goes back in time and wasn't just the last week or so. So there's, again, another app that has layers of information that you can add, including different kind of maps, satellite imagery that allows you to see the depth of the ocean, and of course the ability to relocate and make sure that you zoom on the place you're at and showing that. So that's another way to look at earthquakes and geological activity. So today we looked at 5 apps that will help you teach geology, will help you teach about rocks, and we hope to see you next time on iPads in the Classroom.